The head's nodding. When you meet people, if they're not looking forward, if their heads are not nodding and they look confused, or they need clarification, they need a lot of explanation about what you said and what you do, you're not going to get anywhere. You're going to bore people and you're going to confuse them and you're not going to get what you want. And that's why we put in preparation, prepare for the climb, this very short challenge climb module on introduction stories. So how do you answer the question, what do you do? So this is the classic elevator message kind of thing. And there's so many different ways to do this. And I just picked a way I really like, and that's in the challenge climb. But I'd like to use this little video as an opportunity to introduce another way. And this is not in the challenge climb, it's just another idea. And it comes from this book called Good in a Room by Stephanie Palmer right here. And I'll probably come back to this book at some point when we talk about connecting, not networking. She's got a whole chapter called Stop Networking, which is great. She's in the toughest pond there is, which is Hollywood. So she was a movie producer of some sort, or I guess greenlit movies for a big studio. And I just can't think of a tougher industry where real connections make the difference between who gets the movie made and who doesn't get the movie made. And she talks about how do you make those real connections. And it's pretty much what we're talking about here in our challenge climbs. It's very no different when we get to that one. But I'm going to skip that part of the book for now. And I'm going to go into this area called Teasers for All Occasions. This is chapter 11. Teasers for all occasions. And she's got a thing about trailers, and constructing trailers. And, this is basically somebody says, what do you do? And you answer. How do most people answer? I'm a operational consultant, and I've been working with CEOs of corporations in the Fortune 5000. And, I do work like transformational change management, and I build and align systems and people and processes. And hey, where'd you go? I was telling you what I do. I thought you were interested. I would have left. So here's another way to do it. So she's got this thing, different types of teasers, and she uses an example, a financial advisor that she knows, Feng Shui. So it's a woman from China, I guess, who moved to the United States and now works with foreign nationals in the language she speaks. And she's looking for some new markets in the United States. So the case study here starts with finding your customer. So we're not going to get into that because, we already did that, and know your customer, find customers you love, preparation, prepare for the climb. So you can't, and this is really important, is you can't get these teasers down if you don't know who your customer is. So she found her customers are 1, business owners, 2, professionals like herself, 3, parents trying to send their kids to college, and 4, divorcees. So now that you know that, let's get to the teasers. So there's 3 different types of teasers that Stephanie Palmer likes. There's startling statistics, purposefully non-specific phrases, and long-term benefits. Long-term benefits is the most conventional, in some ways less interesting to me, but I'll share it. But I really want to focus on startling statistics and purposefully non-specific phrases because it's awesome. So startling statistics is that you need a reliable source. You need a bulletproof stat that nobody can counter, even though today everybody's making up their own facts. So, I don't know if there's anything that's bulletproof, but, pretend. And she found some statistics. So one, only 44, relevant to the audience, right? So that's what's important too. Only 44% of new small businesses last 4 years or more. 47% of all stocks are owned by women. Women represent 60% of socially conscious buyers. Okay, those are 3 stats. So find some stats relevant to your audience. Now, what do you do then? How do you add that into this answer of what do you do? So what she would say is, if somebody says, what do you do? She'd say, as you probably know, only 44% of small businesses last more than 4 years. I make sure my clients are in that 44%. Pause, stop. Deliver teaser, stop talking. It's uncomfortable. You're going to be uncomfortable until you get used to it. Let the other person absorb the information. You just stopped the room because somebody's like, what? They're expecting you to say, I'm a lawyer or a consultant or whatever, or I work for so-and-so, something that basically gives you no information, but it's the standard answer, as opposed to saying something like, hey, what do you do? And you answer, as you probably know, only 44% of small businesses last more than 4 years. I make sure my clients are in that top 44%. That's awesome. And then they're going to want to know, like, what do you mean? Like, how do now you got them in, you drew them in, you tease the interest. That's what this is. You're teasing interest. So people start listening. And then you have to have a good follow on, to that. Now, if the person really doesn't respond at all, and they just kind of say, well, I'm a whatever, you move on or shift the conversation somewhere else. But, this kind of, teaser kind of builds rapport, and it gets a conversation started. Now, the second type, maybe a little less, a little more conventional, because that first one's not for everybody. I think I like it because I like to be non-conventional. So if you're a more non-conventional sort of person, find some facts and try them out and see what kind of response you get. You're not going to have the right answer right away, but once you get it down, you have the right answers. It's good. And you can use these on Zoom calls. You don't have to meet people in person to do this kind of thing. Now, purposefully non-specific phrases is a little bit different. So this is somebody who's, appealing, in this case, to somebody who's, taking care of a home and raising a family, but it's in charge of the money or the investment decisions. So again, think of that audience. What is the non-specific phrase that will intrigue that audience? So what do? I'm a personal CFO. I help parents find their quarterly number. I'm like a financial midwife. I don't know what any of that means. That's the point. It's very intriguing, these non-specific phrases. If somebody says to me, I'm a personal CFO, I know what a CFO is. I have a business. I understand what they do. I know CFOs. I understand what a personal CFO is. It's very intriguing. And I'm not in this target market that she's talking about. It's very intriguing. I'm like a financial midwife. That wouldn't get my attention. But to the people she's talking to, it certainly could, or not. Depends on the person. So you got to play around with these non-specific phrases. You may get an answer like, what's a CFO? Or what's a quarterly number? Well, now you get something to talk about. So you got to structure that conversation. So it's beyond the teaser. You have to know what you're going to say next and next and next based on people's responses. That's what this introduction story, Get Heads Nodding, is all about. Now, the last one, which I find a little less interesting, it's the most conventional. Long-term benefits is still good. So this teaser is about presenting long-term benefits that are attractive to the buyer, but exist in the distant future. So what you're saying is you're building a long-term relationship that's worthy of trust. And I think that is an innovation in this idea of long-term benefits and talking in terms of benefits, because you're subconsciously giving people a sense of your wisdom and your trust, because you're thinking in a non-transactional way. So they don't get this feeling you're trying to sell them something. Like, so what do you do? It's like, well, I'm in healthcare insurance, or I'm a financial advisor or something. My back goes up a little bit when I hear those kinds of answers, because I feel like the person's going to pitch me. Maybe that's just me. I don't know. But here's some teasers for her. Like, what do you do? Well, I help people who want to retire early. I help people plan for their golden years. I help families reduce the amount they pay in taxes. I help people send their kids to college. This is all good. And you have a whole list of them in long-term benefits, because you got to look at the person you're talking to and kind of figure out where they fit, within your target market. Because, if it's someone obviously who doesn't have kids and you're talking about sending the kids to college, it's not going to really help. But if you're talking about, somebody who has little kids and you're talking about, I help people send kids to college, they're thinking about that, probably when that kid's born. So that creates a lot of intrigue. And then she goes into a little section here on page 67 about how to tease. So it's before teasing, test. So try out the stats, try out the non-specific phrases and long-term benefits. If people seem intrigued, impressed, or surprised, you've got a winner. You're not going to get to this right away. You got to make a little effort here. Be conversational. Just like you're talking. That's really important with this introduction story. Sometimes people introduce themselves to me, and I think marketers do this a lot, where I can see the positioning statement exercise as they're talking. So you ask them what they do, and you say, well, they say, I help busy executives free up their time so they can live the life that they dream of. I mean, it just doesn't pass the conversational normal sniff test. Nobody speaks like that. So somebody did a positioning exercise and decided that was their statement for their elevator pitch, and then they delivered the pitch. That's not going to work. And then this one I already mentioned, after teasing, stop talking. That is one of the hardest things to do. Stop talking. You have to let the other person think and make a decision about what they're going to do. If you break the silence and jump in, you just lost. Because now you're explaining your teaser. And that's like when somebody says, absolutely, here's my credit card. And you keep trying to explain to them why they should give you your credit card. That's a pretty bad sales job. And this is kind of the same. It's watch the other person's response, listen for their response, listen to the question they ask you, see if they actually care about what you just said. They may not be interested at all in clarification around what you just introduced in that teaser. So this is an excellent book, just in terms of how to connect with people and get into really crowded marketplaces, competitive markets overall. But I wanted to pull out this very specific tip on a different approach to introduction story, get heads nodding. I've got my own version of it, like I said, which works pretty well for me. And hopefully you'll find something in that or here that will help you be more effective in getting attention and getting interest.